The cat. A quiet shadow in the house, always where you're not looking. When it appears, it does so without sound, as if it passes through the air itself. In its eyes glimmers something impossible to name. Calm and alertness, softness and wildness, gentleness and threat. There is something of the night in it, something of mystery, something that has drawn humans for thousands of years, though no one truly knows why. It doesn't greet you like a dog, doesn't need commands or praise. It walks its own paths, yet always returns to where it feels at peace. It is not a domesticated animal. It is a guest who has agreed to live beside us. A cat has no master. It has a companion. There is perfection in its body. Every step balances grace and precision. Every movement is the result of thousands of years of evolution that turned it into an almost flawless hunter. Yet beneath that predatory nature lies something else, an instinct that, for some reason, allowed it to approach humans and never quite leave. Today the cat lives in our homes, sleeps on our sofas, purrs beneath our hands. But one glance into its eyes is enough to see that wildness still there. It hasn't vanished. It has merely learned silence. This is no ordinary creature. It is a mystery that has walked beside humanity through the ages, from Egypt, through medieval villages, to our modern homes. The cat is a mirror in which we glimpse what we do not yet know about ourselves. Our need for closeness, but also for freedom. And perhaps that is why it fascinates us so deeply. Before the cat curled up on our couches, before it purred in the corners of our homes, it was a shadow on the desert. A predator with amber eyes, moving through dry grasses and stone in search of mice. Scientists believe it all began around 10,000 years ago in what is now the Middle East, where humans first learned to cultivate grain. There, in the valleys between the Euphrates and the Tigris, the story of the cat, and our bond with it, began. When people abandoned a nomadic life and began to store harvests, the granaries drew mice. And where there are mice, cats soon follow. The wild African cat, Felis libica, crept closer to human settlements, drawn by easy prey. It was cautious but clever. It knew that where there are humans, there is also food. Over time, people realized these silent hunters were allies. They didn't need to tame them, only not to interfere. Thus began coexistence, not domestication. For the cat never truly surrendered. Unlike the dog, shaped by human hands, the cat in a sense domesticated itself. It earned our trust through its usefulness, yet remained entirely its own. It needed no orders, no praise. Shelter and warmth were enough reward for guarding the grain. With time, cats began to breed near humans, growing less fearful of our presence. But the blood of the desert still flows in their veins. From those wild desert cats descend every house cat alive today, from alley strays to the proudest pedigrees. Geneticists have shown that modern cats are nearly identical to their ancient ancestors from Africa and the Middle East. It means that across millennia, their nature has barely changed. They did not become tame or obedient. They simply learned to live beside us without losing their independence. From Egypt, cats set out into the world. Egyptians revered them. They saw in them the reflection of Bastet, goddess of home and fertility. When a cat died, its owner shaved his eyebrows in mourning. Cats were mummified, offered gifts, treated as sacred, and though later, in medieval Europe, superstition turned against them, they never disappeared. They followed humanity through ports, ships, barns, and cities. Wherever humans settled, cats followed. In a sense, they are the freest of all domesticated animals. They came because they chose to, and stayed because they decided it was worth it. A cat doesn't belong to a human. It is the human who has been accepted by the cat. And perhaps that's why, when we look into those calm eyes today, we feel it's not just a pet, but a guest from ancient deserts, still carrying the echo of freedom within. A cat lives in two worlds at once, ours and its own. In the human world, it seems soft, serene, basking in sunlight. But a single sound, a single flicker of movement, and that sleepy ball of fur becomes a predator. Swift as a blade, its anatomy and every sense were made for survival, for hunting, for observing the world with distance and precision. A cat is what it is because evolution made it the master of solitary endurance. Let's begin with its sight. A cat's eyes are windows to another world, gleaming, wide, with vertical pupils that narrow to slits in sunlight and open like gates at night, gathering every fragment of light. Thanks to a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, a cat sees in the dark 6 times better than a human. Where we see only shadows, the cat sees shape, movement, the faintest tremor of life. For it, night is not darkness. It is the hour of action. Its hearing is a true radar. Each ear can rotate independently more than 180 degrees, catching sounds we cannot perceive. A cat can hear the rustle of a mouse dozens of meters away. And because it hunts alone, every sound means life or death. In what we call silence, its world is full of signals. The flutter of wings, the tap of a drop, the whisper of a leaf. To a cat, everything speaks. Smell is just as vital. A cat reads scent not only through its nose, but through the Jacobson's organ in its palate. When you see a cat pause, mouth slightly open, as if tasting the air, that's when it's decoding the chemical world around it. Other cats, pheromones, emotions. Yes, a cat can smell emotion, fear, anger, curiosity. All have sense we cannot sense. Touch is its most delicate sense. The whiskers, vibrissae, are not decoration but finely tuned sensors that measure space, air movement, and distance. Anyone who's watched a cat glide silently through a room has seen a dance of senses. Every hair, every muscle working in harmony beyond imitation, and instinct. That's its core. A cat doesn't need to be taught to hunt. Even kittens who've never seen prey stalk and pounce with the precision of wild predators. In their bodies lives a code of survival. Wariness toward change, alertness to sound, a craving for height that drives them upward to see more. Even indoors, a cat remains the guardian of its territory. Every scent, every corner must be known. And then there's what makes it truly unique. Its emotional balance. A cat can lie motionless for hours, the embodiment of stillness. But it's not laziness. It's perfect energy conservation. A mechanism of survival honed by time. When the moment comes, the calm dissolves in a flash. The body that seemed asleep becomes lightning. That's why a cat can seem unpredictable. Calm one moment, wild the next, tender then distant. But that's not contradiction, it's balance. Every glance, every movement, every flick of its tail reflects a world where, for millions of years, survival depended on alertness. A cat isn't cold or indifferent. It's simply perfectly designed. By nature, not by man. In it, wildness and closeness meet. And perhaps that's why we find it so fascinating. Because in its quiet gaze, we sense something we ourselves have long forgotten. Instinct. Cats don't speak in words, yet anyone who truly listens knows they're never silent. Their language is a delicate dance of sound, movement, scent, and sight. No words are needed to understand what a cat feels. You only have to watch how it holds its tail, how its whiskers twitch, how its muscles tense. It's a language of nuance, every sentence a whisper between the animal world and ours. The most famous feline voice is, of course, purring, that soft rhythmic hum we associate with peace and happiness. But purring is far more than a sign of contentment. Cats purr when they're relaxed or sleepy, but also when they're hurt, frightened, even dying. Scientists have found that the vibrations of a cat's purr, between 25 and 150 hertz, can stimulate tissue repair and bone healing. It's like a built-in form of sound therapy, a healing resonance the cat uses on itself. A cat purrs to soothe pain, to calm itself, to communicate with others, and with us. Some researchers even suggest that cats evolved this sound for our sake, a vibration meant to awaken care in humans, like a baby's cry, but reversed in emotion. Yet a cat doesn't always use its voice. More often, it speaks with its body. The tail, that simple tuft of fur, is its most eloquent instrument. When it stands upright and quivers slightly, it's joy and greeting. Lowered or stiff, it signals unease or anger. Curved like a question mark, it's an invitation to play. And when it lashes sharply back and forth, best to step aside. Something inside is stirring. Then there's the language of ears and eyes. Ears pricked forward mean curiosity, alertness, readiness. Flattened backward, a warning. As for the eyes, in the feline world, direct staring is a challenge, a show of dominance. A cat that loves you often glances softly, then slowly blinks. That's its version of a smile. Blink back and you've said, "I trust you." The cat's own way of saying, "I love you." And of course, there's the voice itself, meowing. In nature, adult cats almost never meow to one another. It's a language made just for us. Over time, cats learned how to shape sounds that catch human attention. What's more, each meow shifts in tone and rhythm depending on what the cat wants. Food, a door opened, a greeting. It's proof that a cat doesn't just communicate with us. It learns from us. It knows how to sound like we'll understand. Cats also speak through scent. When a cat rubs its head against you, it's not only showing affection, it's marking you with its scent, a signal of belonging. It's both tenderness and ritual. You are part of my world, and I am part of yours. In the feline universe, scent is passport, history, and identity. That's why cats smell everything new, and why any unfamiliar scent in the house makes them uneasy. There's also the language of gesture. When a cat brushes against your leg, it isn't simply seeking touch, it's declaring trust. When it shows its belly, that's the ultimate sign of safety, though not always an invitation to pet. The belly is its most vulnerable place. A paw without claws is a warning, not an attack. When the claws appear, the negotiation is over. The whole feline language is a subtle system of signals woven from instinct and emotion. A cat doesn't speak much because it doesn't have to. Every gesture has meaning, and though it has lived beside us for thousands of years, it remains mysterious. Perhaps that's what draws us. It's like a mirror of communication that can't be translated into words. It must be felt, not decoded. A cat doesn't speak our language, but it listens in a way we no longer listen to nature. And maybe that's where its magic lies, in the simplicity of connection beyond words, where a single purr says more than 1,000 sentences ever could. The sleep of a cat seems simple. A curled-up creature, a fur-lined spiral cut off from the world. Yet inside that sleep lies a journey across instinct, memory, and biology. A cat doesn't sleep out of laziness. It sleeps because its body and mind are built for short bursts of wakefulness, followed by deep restoration. A cat can sleep up to 16 hours a day, more than most predators, but its rest isn't deep like ours. It's a light, alert slumber where every muscle is ready to react. The faintest sound, a shift in scent, a flicker of light, and it's awake. That vigilance is the legacy of millions of years in a world where every second could mean life or death. In nature, the cat was both hunter and prey, so even in dreams, its senses never sleep. When it truly drifts into deep sleep, the REM phase, that's when it dreams. You can see it in the twitch of a paw, the flick of a tail, the tremor of whiskers. Its brain replays scenes of hunting, chasing, playing, instinct rehearsed in silence. In those moments, a cat's brain is nearly as active as when awake. Even in slumber, it trains, it remembers, it survives. Cat sleep is also a tool of balance. Its life runs on cycles, brief bursts of activity and long pauses of rest. Unlike humans, who need one long night's sleep, a cat naps in short intervals throughout the day. Rest for it is not a luxury, but a survival strategy. Curiously, cats often change their sleeping spots every few days. That's a remnant of wild instinct. A predator can't stay too long in one place, or its scent will give it away. Even indoors, that ancient pattern remains. Sometimes a cat sleeps so deeply nothing can wake it. Other times, the sound of a chair scraping the floor is enough to jolt it upright, ready to spring. That's why they say cats never truly sleep. They just let the world fade for a moment. When a cat dreams, its body heals. But something else happens too. Its emotions realign. The purring before sleep, the long stretch, the quiet sigh. These are rituals of peace. Cats sleep most deeply when they feel safe. Their rest is an act of trust. In the wild, A predator can't afford long dreams. In our homes, it finally can. When we look at a sleeping cat, we see peace. But inside, a quiet symphony of instinct is playing. Sometimes a paw twitches, as if chasing a mouse again. Sometimes the tail stirs, as if remembering the scent of the forest. Maybe it dreams of hunting, maybe of sunlight, or maybe simply that for a moment, the world is good. A cat doesn't sleep to escape reality. It sleeps to remain part of nature. Its sleep is the pulse of life slowed down, and when it opens its eyes, it looks at us as if returning from another world. And perhaps it truly does. From a place where instinct and calm are still one and the same. A cat's independence is more than a trait. It's the essence of its being, rooted deep in evolution, in hundreds of thousands of years spent alone among grass, stones, and shadows. A cat was never part of a pack. It needed no leader, knew no hierarchy, never waited for permission to act. Unlike the dog, which for millennia has lived in rhythm with humankind, the cat remained itself, a silent hunter, an observer, a creature that accepted our world but never surrendered to it. In its eyes, the wildness remains. That spark of alertness that never fades, even as it sleeps on a soft couch. When it looks at a person, it doesn't see a master. It sees another being sharing the same territory. Perhaps a friend, perhaps a servant, but always beside it, never above. A cat doesn't understand obedience in the human sense. It chooses cooperation only when it finds meaning in it. It doesn't follow orders. It was never built to. In nature, it decided everything on its own. When to hunt, where to rest, whom to avoid, and whom to attack. That autonomy it has carried with it into our homes, and it still guards it fiercely. That's why a cat often seems naughty, ignoring our calls, interrupting a meeting, jumping where it shouldn't. But that's not rebellion. It's the language of freedom. For a cat, independence isn't a privilege, it's a necessity. Every gesture, even the smallest, bears the mark of self-determination. When it rubs against a person, it doesn't do so to submit, but to mark its world, of which we are simply a part. What's remarkable is how this independence coexists with attachment. A cat can be affectionate, can miss someone, can sense human emotions with astonishing precision. Yet it never loses itself. You could say its love is a choice, not an instinct. It comes when it wishes, and when it leaves, it does so without regret. And that's the beauty of its nature. It loves on its own terms. Scientists have discovered that cats domesticated themselves. They were never tamed by humans as dogs or horses were. They came to our settlements drawn by the scent of grain and mice. Humanity didn't tame the cat. The cat simply decided it was worth its while. It was a pact between species, not submission. Since then, it has stayed by our side, but never allowed itself to be truly trained. Its independence is visible even in how it communicates. It doesn't shout, beg, or plead. It watches, listens, waits. In a single glance, it can say more than a dozen words. And often it's we who must guess what the cat truly thinks. We learn its language, not the other way around. Yet this freedom doesn't mean indifference. A cat needs its person, just not in the way a dog needs its pack. It needs a space where it can simply be itself. It gives trust, but never gives up control. And perhaps that's why we respect it so deeply. Because it reminds us of something we've forgotten. The ability to be self-sufficient. The peace of solitude. The knowledge that closeness doesn't require dependence. A cat's independence isn't distance, it's balance. The harmony between solitude and connection, between instinct and tenderness. Watching a cat sit motionless by the window, as if in meditation, one gets the sense it simply knows something we've forgotten. Maybe that's why cats seem so mysterious. Not because we don't understand them, but because we see in them a reflection of our own lost freedom. A cat's body is a symphony of balance. Its flexible spine, made of over 50 vertebrae, lets it twist in ways a human body never could. That's how a cat performs its famous righting reflex. Even when falling from a great height, it can position itself to land on its feet. It's not magic, it's physics and perfect coordination. The muscles along its spine act like springs, while its tail, that elegant balancing fan, stabilizes its movements and keeps it steady both in midair and while walking along narrow edges. Its senses are precision tools of survival. A cat doesn't see the world as we do. Colors matter less. It can't distinguish reds or pinks. Its world is muted, dominated by shades of blue, green, and gray. But where we see darkness, the cat sees almost everything. Its retina contains a mirror-like layer, the tapetum lucidum, which amplifies even the faintest light, while its pupils can expand to fill nearly the entire eye. That's why a cat's eyes glow at night, and why it moves through the twilight like a silent ghost. Its ears are tiny radars. Each one can rotate almost 180 degrees independently, catching the faintest sounds from all directions. A cat can hear a mouse beneath the ground, the wing of an insect, the crack of a twig from a distance that, to us, would be silence. High-frequency sounds, inaudible to humans, are its hidden language of the world. That's what makes it such an effective hunter. It knows where its prey is long before it ever sees it. But it's the whiskers, the vibrissae, that make it a true master of space. These aren't just hairs, they're sensory instruments. Each one is rooted in a nerve capsule that registers the slightest change in air movement. Through them, a cat knows whether it can squeeze through an opening, judges distance, even senses the direction of the wind. In darkness, its whiskers become its eyes, antennas mapping the world in real time. A cat perceives the world not just through its senses, but through its skin and paws. The pads of its feet are incredibly sensitive, detecting vibration, ground texture, and temperature. That's why its step is so light, so silent. It walks on its toes with claws retracted, leaving no sound. When it hunts, it becomes a shadow. Even its tongue is an engineering marvel, covered in tiny hook-shaped papillae made of keratin, hard as fingernails. They give the tongue its sandpaper roughness, allowing the cat to clean its fur, strip meat from bone, and cool itself by grooming. And grooming is not just hygiene. It's ritual, a form of calm and control. When a cat licks itself, it reduces stress, regulates body temperature, restores order. That's why, after a scare or a fall, a cat often pauses and begins to wash. It's its way of rebalancing the world. The entire feline body follows one rule: silence and efficiency. It hears better than a dog, sees better than a human, moves with unmatched grace. Yet none of it feels mechanical. There's poetry in that design, as if nature created the cat not only to survive, but to remind us that perfection can also be beautiful. A cat is like a shadow with a heartbeat. And maybe that's why it has fascinated us for centuries. Because in its movements, its gaze, and its silence, we glimpse something we've long forgotten: the instinct, alertness, and serenity of a creature that never stopped being part of nature. A cat always lands on its feet, one of the most famous sayings in the animal world. And while it sounds like magic, it's actually a marvel of biology, physics, and evolutionary design. But how does it really work? And is a cat truly indestructible? When a cat falls, its body activates what scientists call the righting reflex, an instinct that appears in kittens only a few weeks old, almost hardwired into their DNA. It all begins with a sense of balance, hidden deep in the inner ear. As the cat's body tumbles, the vestibular system instantly detects direction. Then, the cat begins an acrobatic dance. First, it turns its head to face downward. Then the shoulders follow, then the spine and hind legs. Its ultra-flexible backbone, made of many moving vertebrae, allows it to twist completely in midair. At the same time, it spreads its legs wide to increase surface area, slowing its fall like a parachute. Just before hitting the ground, it bends its legs, absorbing the shock. This entire sequence takes just a fraction of a second. And that's how a cat can fall from great heights and walk away almost unscathed. But does it always survive? Not quite, and here the story gets even more fascinating. While cats have incredible survival abilities, their bodies do have limits. Sometimes, a cat falls from too low a height, like a windowsill or table, and doesn't have enough time to activate its reflex. Ironically, higher falls can be safer. In the 1980s, scientists in New York studied cats that had fallen from city skyscrapers. Surprisingly, cats that fell from above the 7th floor were more likely to survive than those from lower floors. Why? Because after a few seconds, a falling cat reaches terminal velocity. It stops accelerating, relaxes its body, and spreads its legs like wings. The fall slows, and the impact spreads more evenly. The phenomenon became known as high-rise syndrome. It sounds absurd, but it's real, and it proves just how extraordinary feline biomechanics truly are. Even so, cats are not indestructible. Their bodies, though supple and resilient, have limits. Broken legs, internal injuries, even death. These are real consequences of a fall, especially onto hard ground. A wrong angle, a slip, a moment of surprise. That's all it takes for nature's defense system to fail. Some cats, especially those raised indoors without experience of heights, lose their spatial instinct. In cities, many fall from balconies while trying to catch a bird or an insect. This is called high-rise syndrome, or more precisely, the balcony cat syndrome. A sadly common phenomenon, too often dismissed by owners. A cat doesn't understand height the way humans do. It simply sees movement and reacts. Yet a cat never falls thoughtlessly. In a fraction of a second, its body analyzes the situation, shifts its balance, tenses its muscles. What happens then is pure biology, instinct at work without conscious thought. But when conditions are too harsh, a slippery ledge, a narrow sill, a hard landing, even the best reflex may not be enough. So the saying that a cat always lands on its feet is almost true, but not entirely. A cat manages it most of the time, yet it isn't immortal. Its body is a miracle of evolution, not a supernatural one. And maybe that's why we should admire it even more. Because inside every quiet, graceful figure lives a creature that can fall from the sky, touch the ground, and rise again as if nothing happened, but only because nature gave it a gift that must never be tested. When a cat eats, it isn't driven by hunger in the human sense. For it, eating is a ritual of the hunt, even when the prey is a bowl of food. Every meal begins with observation, vigilance, and assessment. In the wild, a cat would hunt many times a day, not to feast but to survive. Its prey was small, mice, birds, lizards. Sometimes the hunt succeeded, sometimes it didn't. That's why both its body and mind evolved for frequent, small meals, not for rare, heavy banquets. That instinct still lives on today, only in a new world. A house cat often plays with its food, sniffing, pawing, even tossing a kibble before eating it. It's not caprice, it's the echo of hunting, once an everyday act. Even with prepared food, its brain behaves as though the meal must first be captured. That's why play that mimics hunting is so important. Chasing a feather toy, pouncing on a ball, or darting after a laser light. For a cat, these are not mere games, but a necessary outlet for its predatory instinct. Without it, boredom, frustration, or even weight gain follow. A cat denied the chance to hunt often compensates with constant eating or aggression. Despite appearances, modern cats haven't lost their hunting instinct. They've only adapted it. Watch how a cat responds to movement, a flicker of light, a twitching finger, a fly behind glass, and instantly, the ancient hunter awakens. Eyes widen, body tightens, tail begins to sway. Inside, the predator stirs. Even the way a cat kills and eats is unique. In the wild, it finishes its prey with a precise bite to the neck, right where the spinal cord runs. Then it eats from the head or belly, where the richest nutrients lie. Sometimes it plays with its prey, not out of cruelty, but instinctive training. At home, the same pattern repeats in miniature. Before eating, it plays with kibble, or carries it elsewhere, as if to hide it or test if the spot is safe. A cat doesn't eat for pleasure like a human. It eats for the act itself. The capture and the meal are one continuous ritual. That's why the typical human feeding schedule, one large bowl once a day, goes against its nature. Small, frequent meals fit it better, each one a tiny hunt. Cats also have refined senses of taste and smell. Unlike humans, they can't taste sweetness. Predators don't need sugar, but they can detect subtle differences in protein, meat freshness, and even artificial additives in food. So when a cat refuses a meal that looks fine to us, it's because its nose knows better. Food also carries an emotional meaning for cats. A stressed cat may refuse to eat, because in the wild, a predator doesn't feed when threatened. Its body shuts down digestion, redirecting all energy towards survival. Conversely, a calm, trusting cat will often eat in its owner's presence, a quiet sign that it feels safe. So have modern cats lost their hunting instinct? Not at all. They've simply learned to disguise it. They hunt in play, in stalking a fly, in watching dust swirl in sunlight. To us, these are small gestures. To them, it's life in miniature. Inside every cat, even the softest and most pampered, lives a wild hunter, waiting for the right moment to feel nature again. In a sense, every domestic cat carries within it the echo of a lion. That's not metaphor, it's evolutionary truth. Because even as it sleeps on a couch and rolls over for a belly rub, its story is written in wild blood that was never truly tamed. Cats that left human homes and returned to the wilderness, to forests, deserts, or mountains, didn't vanish. They simply remembered what they were. The great cats, lions, tigers, cheetahs, jaguars, panthers, aren't just distant relatives of our purring companions. They are branches of the same family, divided by millions of years of evolution, yet still astonishingly alike in instinct, anatomy, and spirit. Their shared ancestor lived some 10 to 12 million years ago, giving rise to two worlds, one of power and grandeur, the other of agility and quiet independence. Lions are the paradox, the only cats to live in groups, forming prides bound by hierarchy, loyalty, and fierce struggle for survival. The lionesses hunt together, the males defend the land, and the cubs learn through play, which, at its core, is training for the hunt. In their eyes, you can see the same glint you see in a house cat stalking a toy, only magnified, scaled up to life and death. The cheetah, meanwhile, is the master of speed, light, aerodynamic, a body built like a spring. It can reach 60 miles per hour in seconds, but that speed comes with a price. The cheetah is not strong, doesn't fight, doesn't guard territory through force. It's a cat that won evolution by agility, not aggression. Like every cat, it hunts not with rage, but with precision. The tiger is the solitary one, the quiet monarch of the forest. It prowls for hours through dense foliage, its orange and black stripes serving not as decoration, but as perfect camouflage. The tiger doesn't need company. Its world is built on patience and instinct, and in that, perhaps, it resembles the domestic cat most. The independence, the boundaries, the need for solitude and calm. And then there are the cats that became wild again, not large but free. The ones that escaped human homes and now live on the edges of cities, in abandoned buildings, in forests. Feral cats, the untamed versions of our pets, their lives are a return to nature. Hunting at night, avoiding people, living in small colonies that echo primitive lion prides. They no longer have comfort, but they have something else, freedom. And though they differ in size, strength, and place, they share one thing, a body language that never lies. A lioness and a house cat raise their fur, flatten their ears, narrow their pupils when threatened. A cheetah and a domestic cat move almost identically, hips low, paws silent, motion fluid as shadow. The same biomechanics, the same instinct, the same code. Wild cats do not know humans, but humans know them all too well. For thousands of years, people have watched them with a mix of awe and unease. In many cultures, cats were symbols of divinity and mystery. In Egypt, the goddess Bastet with the head of a cat was revered. In Japan, cats were believed to ward off evil spirits. In medieval Europe, they were seen as the companions of witches. Today, we look at a lion and see power. We look at a cat and see its miniature reflection. Yet what is wild can never be fully tamed. In the heart of every cat lion or stray, lies the same essence: quiet, proud, wary, unwilling to obey. Humans may have domesticated the cat but never subdued it. It is the only animal that entered our homes on its own terms. Because contrary to appearances, the cat was never truly domesticated. It simply decided that humans could be useful allies, like a pride of lions working together to survive. Only the cat does it differently, with distance, with dignity, with that elusive glint of wildness in its eyes. Eyes that, whether you meet them from a meter away or in the heart of the African savannah, always remind you of the same truth: that every cat still carries the spirit of its ancestors. Feline intelligence has fascinated people for centuries and still escapes simple definition. It is not intelligence in the human sense, shaped by logic, planning, or language. It is an intelligence of instinct, of the body, of the senses. Subtle, flexible, impossible to quantify, but undeniable. A cat is not an animal that lends itself easily to experiments. In laboratories, it often fails tests, simply because it refuses to cooperate. That's not a lack of ability. It's a conscious choice. A cat learns only when it decides it's worth learning. That selectiveness is the first sign of its cunning. A cat observes, analyzes, and remembers, but not to please a human. It does it to improve its own comfort or odds of survival. It can recognize its owner's voice, tone, daily routines, the sound of a can being opened, even the emotions in a human's voice. It won't respond like a dog, won't come when called, because its mind says, "No need, he'll come to me anyway." And it's usually right. Cats also possess an exceptional spatial memory. They remember the location of objects, the layout of a home, even routes back from miles away. There are documented cases of cats returning from dozens of kilometers, as if they carried a map in their minds, one humans cannot read. Their brains function like biological GPS, guided by scent, Earth's magnetic field, and sensory memory. Feline intelligence also appears in their capacity for observation and imitation. A cat can open a door, a cabinet, press a handle, even switch on a light, if it's seen someone do it often enough. It doesn't learn through commands, but through patterns. What it sees becomes what it does. That's why cats so naturally sync with domestic life, knowing when we wake, when we return, when it's time to eat. But their intelligence isn't just practical, it's emotional. Cats can sense human moods, tension, sadness, anger. Sometimes, when someone cries, a cat comes and sits nearby, not to fix anything, but simply to be there. Studies suggest cats respond more to tone than words, and that their brains activate much like ours when they hear familiar voices. It's no accident that a cat approaches when you speak softly and leaves when you shout. Cats are also problem solvers. When curious, they don't give up easily. They'll figure out that if they can't open a container with a paw, they can knock it off the table and see what happens. It's the intelligence of an experimenter, not an obedient follower. They learn through trial and error, and they remember. For years, scientists thought cats were less intelligent than dogs. That's a myth. In truth, their brains contain roughly the same number of neurons in the neocortex, about 250 million, only slightly fewer than a dog's and more than most mammals. The difference lies in how they use them. A cat doesn't live in a pack, so its brain evolved for independence, quiet analysis, and self-directed decisions. It doesn't need a leader. It is one. A cat's intelligence is revealed in its life strategy. It doesn't seek attention, validation, or praise. It observes, waits, and acts when the moment feels right. That's why people often see cats as aloof, mysterious, or detached. In truth, it's wisdom. The wisdom of conserving energy, avoiding waste, and surviving by restraint. Feline wisdom is different from ours. It's the wisdom of silence, distance, and focus. In a world of noise and haste, the cat seems to whisper, "You don't have to act all the time. You just have to act at the right time." And perhaps that's why cats have survived for thousands of years almost unchanged. Because true intelligence isn't about submission, but about knowing when to move and when simply to endure. In ancient Egypt, the cat was no ordinary animal. It was sacred, a symbol of life, fertility, love, and also power and protection. The goddess Bastet, a woman with a cat's head, embodied gentleness and maternal care, yet could transform in an instant into the fierce lioness Sekhmet, destroyer and defender. Egyptians believed both spirits lived in every cat, tenderness and wildness, grace and fury. And that was precisely why cats deserved reverence, because they united opposites humans could never reconcile. In Egyptian homes, the cat was a guardian. It kept out rodents, and so people believed, evil spirits. When a cat entered a temple, it could not be driven away. And when one died, the family mourned as if for a relative. People shaved their eyebrows in grief. The cat's body was embalmed and buried in special necropolises. Archaeologists have found thousands of such mummies, proof that Egyptians truly believed cats possessed souls capable of crossing into the afterlife. But the cat's magic didn't end in Egypt. In ancient Rome, it symbolized liberty, its independence admired as a reflection of the republican spirit. In Norse mythology, the goddess Freyja, patron of love and fertility, rode a chariot drawn by two giant cats. People believed cats bridged worlds, between humans and spirits, between life and death. Their eyes, gleaming in darkness, were seen as gateways between day and night, life and the beyond. Then came the dark centuries. The Middle Ages brought a curse upon cats. In an age of superstition and fear of witchcraft, cats, especially black ones, became emblems of evil. People believed they were witches' familiars, shapeshifters, messengers of the devil. At night, when their eyes glowed, humans saw not biology, but hellfire. They were hunted, burned with the accused, driven from villages. And ironically, when cats disappeared, plagues spread, carried by rats they once kept in check. In time, the cat reclaimed its place. In the 18th and 19th centuries, as science began to replace superstition, cats became symbols of mystery again. Not demonic, but natural. Scholars studied them, how they land on their feet, how they hear ultrasound, how they move without sound. They discovered it wasn't magic. It was biology perfected by millions of years of evolution. Yet even science couldn't strip away the myth, because cats remain creatures of the threshold, neither wild nor fully tame. They walk their own paths, appear when they wish, vanish when they must. To humans, they have always been a kind of riddle, beings who know something we do not. In Japan, cats were thought to attract good fortune, hence the maneki neko, the famous cat with a raised paw beckoning prosperity. Folklore also spoke of the bakaneko, a ghost cat that could return after death as a guardian or avenger. In Islam, cats were revered as pure creatures, and according to legend, the Prophet Muhammad once cut off a sleeve of his robe rather than disturb a sleeping cat. Everywhere they appeared, they inspired respect. Even modern science cannot erase their mystery. We know the anatomy of their eyes, their senses, their brains. And yet we do not truly understand them. Cats see in twilight as if there were starlight trapped in their pupils. Their ears can track separate sounds at once. Their bodies, soft and flexible, survive falls that would kill other beings. It is physics balanced on the edge of a miracle. Perhaps that is why the cat still exists between worlds, of science and of magic. To the biologist, it is a perfect predator. To the poet, a being from another realm. To the human, a companion who speaks without words. And when, at night, a cat sits by the window and gazes into the dark, one might feel it sees something we have long forgotten. Perhaps a memory of ancient gods, perhaps an echo of its own divinity, or maybe simply the truth about the world. That magic and nature have always been one and the same.